Hey, this is Joshua, MVA Studio, Minneapolis. Welcome to the daily video blog. Today, I want to talk about the one thing I wish I had known going back to right when I started a career in design, maybe even going back to art school. It's like the one thing that I think would have been more helpful, more of a game changer than anything else. Some context. I went through school with the idea that I was training to be a designer, and that what would happen is I would go through these courses and do these projects and learn these things, and then they'd confer this degree upon me, and at that point I would be legit. I would be a designer. Because of that, I did very little freelance work during school because I felt like I hadn't earned the right to do it. I would do little bits and stuff for free for friends, but in general, I had it in my head that I was going to go through this process, and when I came out the other end, I'd be a designer. Kind of like going to, I don't know, med school maybe. When you're pre-med, you're just pre-med. You're not a doctor, but you come out the other side a doctor. I think I thought the same way about design. That thinking, that held me back, because the fact of the matter is, when I got out to the other side, I was the same person, just now I had a degree and a bunch of student loans. There never was that magical moment where I was like, oh, awesome, I'm a designer now. Because of that, I spent a long time not feeling like I was legit. You know, people call it imposter syndrome. I definitely had imposter syndrome. I kept thinking that some situation was going to give me that thing that I needed. What I wish that I knew was that the minute I had started designing stuff when I was 16, maybe 15, that's when I was making stuff where I was trying to give form to content. That was the point at which I was a designer. And the whole time I was in community college, I was a designer. The whole time I was in art school, I was a designer. The reason I think that that is important is that using that language, I am a designer, means that I am viewing myself as a professional. And by viewing myself as a professional, I'm probably going to start acting like a professional instead of an insecure, fearful student that I probably was. I think that by deciding that I was a designer, that would probably bring my game up. I know that it's true, like I've always been really insecure, and the minute I decided I was going to be confident, I started doing things to earn that confidence. A lot of the big changes for me or in my work came from deciding very deliberately that I was something. And then I changed my day-to-day thoughts and actions to match that declaration. I think this is important because I think there's a lot of creative people who are very reasonable people. It's reasonable to think that when you start school, you're not a professional yet. You're learning your skills and your craft and your trade, and you will go through school and you will come out the other side as a professional. But that sort of denies the reality of school, which is largely, I don't know, a meandering, weird thing. It's what you decide that ends up being that important thing. So if you feel like stuff is if there's gonna be a magic bullet where you have that sense of like, yes, I made it on that thing, it's not gonna happen. When it happens is when you decide, I am a professional designer. And you can decide that at 14 years old. You can decide that in graphic design 1. You can decide that the day you graduate. But you have to decide, and then your actions and your thoughts will start to support that new self-image. And I think for myself, that would have been valuable, because when you have that whole imposter syndrome, you don't act from a place of strength. You're constantly sort of hiding. Instead of offering more to the client than you can get from them, you need the clients to kind of help you out. And that's not where you want to be. If you have had that kind of moment where you've decided, I am this now, tell us about it in the comments.